And welcome back to another episode of Shovick Sports Shit. I'm Cory.
I'm Austin.
I know we said we were going to have a special guest tonight. I think we may still have a guest later on. If not, we'll work something out to get it rescheduled with him. We know things kind of happen. So let's dive into some sports hits real quick. Now that we can kind of rotate or audible, I guess that would be the key word. Let's talk about Bobby for a second. Bobby did something better than A-Rod, not surprised, right? So took A-Rod his whole career to be the first shortstop to win, batting title, gold glove, silver slugger, all this other stuff. Bobby did it all this year. So not just Bobby, but let's give flowers to Sal also, who won a silver slugger. So he's got 5 silver sluggers now to go with his 5 gold gloves and just countless
And the
all-star
Roberto
appearances.
Clemente Award. That's a big one.
Yeah, that's like that's the Walter Payton Award basically for baseball. So Sal continues to etch himself. I mean, he was already, obviously it's always going to be George, number 1 for the Royals, but Salvi's making a case to be up there with George. The things that he's able to do in the community, what he's done for the Royals and the young team, and what they're doing going forward. So congrats to Sal. But again, let's talk Bob for a second. So signs a huge deal right before the season starts. Questions of, well, is that going to make him relax? Did quite opposite. The dude was an absolute hit machine. He was a tank. Give us your thoughts and give us a couple of your opinions on what Bob was able to do, not only this season, but for the off-season kind of accolades.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird that that's a question that even comes with the contract, like for that with someone so young. Like, why does no one question that kind of contract when a 32-year-old gets it? Like, okay, I'm about to pay a dude for what he's about to do instead of paying somebody who's done it for 8 years and is already. That's a weird question, but yeah, I did the opposite to Bob. I think, he was touted as a 5-tool player coming out. But what I think really led to the contract extension is just what the Royals have talked about from day one since drafting him. Not the tools, it was the leadership, it was the competitiveness. Those are things you can't really coach. Like, you're either competitive and a leader or you're not. Like, you can act like it and it's not going to have the same effect. But I think those two things, that's what the Royals have said about him from day one. And I think after just a year or two, they realized that, yeah, that really is him. And so they gave him the contract knowing, barring any kind of injuries, that he was going to be out there competing. Numbers aside, you have a leader like that, a young player who's going to go out there and compete. You can live with the contract like that. So I still think he can get better. I know that's weird to say after the year he just had. I don't think it's a fluke season. Sometimes you have a good year and it's a fluke season. And I'm quite the opposite. I actually think this wasn't even the ceiling for him. So it's good for him, good for the city, good for the team. Hopefully it'll get some people to come to Kansas City and want to play with him. That way, we're not going to hope for a dynasty like across the parking lot, which would be cool. But there's some players on this team who I'd like to get a World Series or two. I don't want. Witt deserves one. I know it's early in his career to say a player deserves one, but what he's already done for the team in that city, from a baseball standpoint, like, the dude already deserves one. So I hope he keeps getting recognition. I hope he keeps getting love. And I think it's pretty awesome that 2 of the greatest athletes in their sports play 5 feet apart from each other. So it's weird. I'm ready for Royals baseball already. That's not usually the habit. It's like, okay, let's enjoy KU basketball. Let's enjoy the Super Bowl. But now it's like, let's go. Let's make some moves. Let's get spring. Let pitchers and catchers report yet. What are we doing?
Soon. But once Super Bowl is rolling around, you get to Super Bowl week, then basically after the Super Bowl that it's really heating up because a lot of guys will show up early. The Super Bowl is kind of like the telltale of like, okay, here's our time frame of when they'll start reporting to spring training. And I know a lot of these guys are going to be there early. just because the excitement's going to be there and how the season ended. Obviously, you know, realistically, yeah, we wanted to beat the Yankees, but realistically, we knew that was probably our end. And to play them as well as we did and have a chance to probably win that series if, we don't walk 30 hitters in a series. But that's here nor there. And we'll talk about the Royals in February, unless more awards keep popping up. And I know I'm going to keep my eye on what Jack Caglianone's been doing because I know he's been tearing it up in fall league. So it's like, is he going to get that spring training invite with the possibility of making the roster? Time will tell, and we'll know more. So just be on the lookout for those, and we'll talk Royals in the next couple of months. So that's number 3 on the hits list. Let's go to number 2. 2 big games for KU since the last time we talked to you guys. Friday, massive matchup at the Fieldhouse. You guys did not disappoint. It was beautiful to watch on TV. See the student section just going absolute ape shit. Love seeing it. Jay Billis obviously commented on it, which most commentators will once they get there. So that's a huge win. You blew a lead, but you found a way to win against North Carolina. Give us your thoughts on North Carolina first before we talk about last night.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of watching those national games that are at Allen Fieldhouse is about 30 seconds to a minute before tip-off. The commentators just shut up and they just scan the crowd and just like let you take in the 130 decibels that 16,000 people are putting inside that barn. Like that's my favorite part. Like, me, I always have the remote with me because I have it pumped up right there, and then I'm like 30 seconds into the game, it gets a little like a loud whistle, and I'm like, shit, I got to turn this down. But no, I thought they played great. Bill's still trying to figure the rotation. You still got to figure out, who works well together, who's going to go with who and who comes off the bench. And you got a lot of talent. You got to figure out a way to manage it. I trust Bill. That was a rough way to blow a lead. But when you were shooting as hot as you were in the first half, like law of averages, you're going to cool off a wee bit. Unless you're playing KU, then you just stay fire. But no, I thought it was big. Came out strong, came out with effort. Obviously, that middle portion of the game sucked, but you found a way to win, which in the end is what it's all about. So, North Carolina will be pretty good. I mean, it's North Carolina.
I was impressed with those 2 freshman guards that they have.
Yeah.
And then even watching a little bit of Duke last night, I think North Carolina is going to match up with Duke really well.
Duke's just young. It's one of those where kind of the heyday for Calipari in Kentucky with all his young teams, you don't know which one you're going to get long term. Sometimes all that young talent doesn't gel together, and it's a rough season. I'm not saying they're not talented because they are, but when you're young, you don't really know what you're going to have. But I think North Carolina will be fine. Good coach. Again, good tradition. Like, they're a good team. That was a good early season matchup for not even just the fans of the teams, but just college basketball. So it was a good win. It was good seeing the Fieldhouse back in action. Yeah, that was really my takeaway.
Yeah, so that one, Coach Self tied Fog Allen for the most wins. And then last night, Tom Izzo is one of our favorites. I mean, we talked about it throughout the game last night. We love Tom and how he coaches and how he gets his guys ready. An unranked team, but they were 2-0, and they're still going to be. As long as Tom Izzo's there, they're always going to have that possibility. They'll make the tournament.
What I say at the beginning of that, like, they're unranked, but they'll be an 11 seed in the Sweet 16. Like, just
they'll get in that play-in game, the first 4 or whatever, and just go on a run. That's just what they do. This team might actually be a little bit better than what those teams were. It was an off night for obviously their best player. Akins only had 2. He had 2 points. He was 1 for 8, 0 for 4 from 3. But we also didn't shoot the ball well either. They shot 3 of 24 from 3-point range, which killed them. Luckily, we were 5 of 17. And I think it was one of those where early on we were shooting bad shots. And I think they started getting an idea that, hey, the three's not falling, but the shots that Hunt's throwing up in the paint are going down. So then they got Hunter more involved. Well, I mean, he was honestly the offense the first half and second half. I think he had our first 8 points, and then he finishes with 28 and 12. Zeke Mayo's been starting. He's earned it, obviously, but he had 6 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. So again, he had an off night shooting, but he found ways to help on the glass. Like, if you're not going to shoot the ball like you had been, what are you going to do to contribute? Grabbing 10 rebounds and dishing out 7 assists will do that. We only had 15 bench points. We had 40 plus the first 2 games. That's okay. Because again, I think it goes back to what you just said a little bit ago, is we're still trying to figure out who the bench players are going to be. Is Mayo going to end up, when it's said and done, being a bench guy, or is it going to be Coit? Is AJ Storr going to, kind of figure it out? He only had 6 points, but he had some terrible, not just him, but the whole team in general had some terrible fouls. That's got to get corrected, especially once you get deeper in, closer to conference play. Big 12 officiating is not the greatest. We know this. All those who say KU gets the calls at Allen Fieldhouse, please look at the box score and reference North Carolina's free throw shooting compared to what KU shot at the Fieldhouse, and we still won the game by 3. That's neither here nor there, but at the same time, this team's got to figure it out defensively.
Well, and that's part of what that goes into Bill not only learning the players, but the players got to learn each other too. More specifically, when you're out on the floor and you're playing perimeter defense as a guard, keep your hands off if Fadunga's in the game. You have a shot blocker, a true elite shot blocker. No need to pick up a stupid foul if you get a little out of position. So it's the players learning each other. The communication. They're still single digits as far as real game action going, of communicating, knowing each other, learning each other. I know that seems weird to say, but basketball is very much a game of chemistry. You have to play well together. A lot of these guys, probably up through high school, they did just play by themselves and beat teams by themselves just with the talent. But it's a little different at this level. You have to get the chemistry, especially defensively. We switch almost everything. I'm not worried yet. I'm actually pretty proud. I know the fouls, but North Carolina's not an easy game. A very neutral site against Michigan State, which definitely felt like a road game because KU was definitely getting booed, which it's pretty normal. So, but I mean, that's 2 big early wins. I know Bill can be smiling and happy with wins and everything, but he knows he sees things that none of us can even probably think of that he's working on. So I trust him. I think they're only going to get better. The team's deep. We have a good coaching staff. Ugly wins, whatever you want, they're still wins. But honestly, non-conference is about learning what you got, preparing yourself for the conference play. Because Big 12, it's a gauntlet this year. And that's really what these games are preparing them for, win or lose.
And congratulations to Coach Self with that win last night. Overtakes Fog Allen as the winningest coach in KU program history. He says it's because he's old, but then realizes he's had some good players, which, I mean, he has. I still remember when Roy left, I was super, super hurt by it. And then we got Bill Self, and I was kind of like, what? And here we are 20-some years later, and now the winningest coach in program history. Congrats to Coach. So you get Oakland Saturday, UNC Wilmington on Tuesday before playing Duke the following Tuesday, November 26th, who took a tough L last night. They had control of Kentucky most of the game, and then Kentucky made a late run. I do. Yeah, and Kentucky's basically a team full of transfers, so they're kind of in the same boat of learning each other, but that's actually probably a season-changing win for Kentucky right there on a neutral court against a top 10 team, a good young Duke team, but at the same time, you hadn't played but 2 games together, so good for Kentucky. It's always good to see Duke lose. As much as we do enjoy North Carolina, we don't feel the same way about Duke. We never will. So congrats to Kentucky, which is kind of easier to say now that Cal's not there.
I used to like Kentucky when Tubby was there. I cheered for Kentucky during those days. So it is a lot easier to cheer for them, especially when they're beating Duke. So college basketball is laying out some games this year. If you're a college basketball fan, you got to love this early season lineup of games.
Beautiful.
And the ones
and get ready. And get ready because all your holiday tournaments are getting ready to start. So this is KU's obviously not playing in any because we're playing the Vegas game against Duke. Thank God, because we seems to be every time when Thanksgiving's rolling around, KU gets put in a tough ass tournament and we get our asses handed to us. Last year was Marquette. I think the year before was like Tennessee or NC State or somebody. Like either way, super happy to see us not playing in a tournament, but it also scares me knowing our track record around Thanksgiving time. But we'll worry about that later on. That's number 2 in our sports hits. Number 1, I'm going to talk about the playoff picture for football just because it's going to tie into what we're getting ready to talk to. We're only going to talk the AFC playoff picture. Obviously, the Chiefs just continue to build their lead as the number 1 seed. So if the playoffs were to start after week 10, you'd have number 7 Denver at number 2 Buffalo, and then you'd have the Chargers at the Steelers, and then you'd have the Ravens at the Texans. Do any of those matchups at all kind of like intrigue you at all?
Who are the Chargers playing?
The Chargers are at the Steelers.
Yeah, see, I don't know if
That's
that one.
That's your 6-3.
Yeah, see, I don't know if that one intrigues me. Because both those teams just like don't seem very good, but they're like they have wins.
And they're identical.
They kind of are like pass enough to be dangerous, but really live on their run game and defense. I think Steelers would win that just because I trust their defense more. Broncos, Bills. I think if Denver were to be able to turn that into like a real slobber knocker of a game and not a track meet, that could go either way. Honestly, no. Like those, as good as the AFC is, I feel like those matchups are kind of trash. Well, hell, when you even think about it, when your 1 seed's Kansas City, if you've watched their games, you're like, how the fuck are they undefeated? So, as deep as the AFC is, I'd be kind of sad with those matchups. Just, I don't think there's that like premier matchup going on, right? Like Texans Ravens could be, but Ravens defense is just
and Texans offense is kind of trying to figure it out as well. But then you look at the teams kind of on the outside right now. You got the Colts, then you have the Bengals, possibly. And we'll get into those 2 teams here shortly. So that wraps up the Shovick Sports Hits as we dive into real quick a little. I mean, honestly, that game Sunday was awesome. It truly was. Even at the end, it's kind of like a what the fuck moment. Because honestly, you had that. You had it controlled. You couldn't have asked for Bo Nix to make a bigger throw on that 3rd down to get you in. You don't get that 3rd down. You have to kick it in, but then you're still leaving over close to a minute, maybe like 45 seconds for Pat in the offense. But instead, you get that completion, and now you sit on it. You're thinking, hell yeah. Does the block really come through? Does it really cross your mind as they're taking the field that this kick's going to be blocked?
Honestly, no. Some teams you watch, maybe like if Giants or Panthers or previous KU football team, well, honestly, current KU football team, special teams, like sometimes it'll cross your mind, but like Denver usually has a decent special teams. Like you just don't see plays like that from Denver, even when they were bad, or really Sean Payton. Sean Payton is usually the one whose special teams make the plays. So honestly, once they were lining up for a field goal, I know I'm a Chiefs fan and like we find ways to win, but it's usually when Patrick has the ball and he's controlling what's about to happen. Like at that point, I'd be curious to see how many times, even like a missed field goal, okay. Like you kind of see the trajectory when it gets up and you're like, you missed it or not. But I'd be curious to see how many field goals in that situation. Like what's the blocked like amount blocked? Not missed, but blocked.
Blocked, yeah.
So honestly, I was texting my buddy Justin, and he was asking me even before the play happened. He's like, "Is your brother talking shit? Like, I don't even think I want to listen to your guys' podcast this next week." And I was just like, "No, he's actually doing it well." And before I could even hit sent, it was blocked. So like, we were chalking it up to over, which I don't know if we can ever do that again anymore. Like, we've learned our lesson, but no, the thought of it being blocked did not cross my mind. Miss, yes, you can always think missed field, like that's a possibility, but just to see the line get destroyed like that and get blocked, like no, that didn't cross my mind.
So I don't think I would have been unbearable if Denver would have won that game, because I think I was more along the lines of looking at, one, and I told you afterwards, Denver has their quarterback now, so that's a nice thing to know. You have a head coach and you have your quarterback. Now you start looking around to some of these other pieces now that you can truly focus on in the draft and free agency, now that you don't have to worry about going out and finding a quarterback. I said last week that I wasn't sure how our offense was going to look against your defense, but I also wasn't sure how our defense was going to come and look against Kansas City's, just based on what I saw against Baltimore. Um, that was a fucking just slapping each other defensively. I think we both were enjoying that. We really were, just because I
Yeah, it
saw
wasn't
someone.
bad offense. Like that's
No,
it wasn't bad offense.
you just saw two really good defensive coaches making their adjustments. Like, yeah, it sucks. Denver blew a 14-3 lead. Cool. I wasn't going into that game wondering, hey, how are we going to blow this lead? You got to look at the little things. How is your rookie quarterback going to go on the road in a hostile environment? Is he going to look like a rookie? Is he going to, how's he going to react? Now, I saw someone break some film down earlier. It was kind of funny because that was a rookie moment for Bo Nix. So Spags, and we, again, last week, if you listened to us, you heard us talk about the different designs and what Spags can do to confuse people. And we see how he confuses all these other great quarterbacks. Now he's got a rookie sitting right there. There was one where he had literally everybody up on the line. I think there was a miscommunication somewhere, because when it was all said and done and he did a slow-mo of it, Bo took the fuck off and there was only 4 guys that came. All the other guys dropped out. And then that's when Bo kind of threw himself out of the play, just for the fact of he thought there was a blitz coming. Now, someone did eventually get through there, and he did take the sack on it. But that just goes to show you that, Spags knows what he's doing. And then Vance Joseph, hey, we know Patrick Mahomes isn't 100%. Let's throw this at him. That he tells the defensive ends, hey, these tackles aren't very good. Wide, go wide, get around them quick. So, and I know you made a few comments about your tackles. Why don't you go ahead and kind of give your thoughts on here with what you saw with the line?
Yeah, I want to make a couple points before I forget, just because I forget everything. I want to say one as a Chiefs fan, so they don't think it's bias if it came out of your mouth as a Broncos fan. Everyone obviously has their opinions and everything, and I'm just giving mine. Basically, everything you just said with Spags and his defensive schemes, and honestly, the rookie track record against those schemes, and how Bo Nix performed. There's no way, if you were on the fence before that game about Bo Nix, that you're not just fully a believer. I know you're sitting back thinking, he only scored 14 points. Why are you a full believer? Well, let's think about how one of those touchdowns came to happen. It was an all-out blitz. He still went after our all-pro corner and trusted the receiver. Quarterbacks don't really do... A lot of times, if you watch the Chiefs games and that's the matchup, the quarterbacks won't even look there. But you have your giant receiver on our... He's an all-pro, but it's still a mismatch as far as size and everything. That was Bo Nix. I think that was a huge, not even a play in the game, but a locker room moment of him showing that, hey, I know what was coming, and I trust my guy, even against an all-pro. I think that play alone right there is when I was like, shit, this guy might be pretty good. We've watched games. We watched games all year with the Chiefs. A lot of times when it's McDuffie one-on-one with somebody, they don't even look there. They go to find somewhere else, a quick dump down, a quick slant, a dump out to the running back. This dude was like, I see what's about to happen. I see the one-on-one, and I'm trusting my guy. And that's big time. I know he's like a 73-year-old rookie, so I don't know like what you can take into that. But and then I also want to counter, because I talk a lot of shit, and I definitely did after week 1 on Lamar Jackson. But that game could have been over with Patrick Mahomes missing that throw at the end. Kind of unacceptable. I talked a lot of shit on Lamar when he did that to Zay Flowers against the Chiefs, missed him wide open in the end zone, and now Patty did that. It's honestly a game the Chiefs deserve to lose. The best players didn't play that good. They got hit in the mouth, let Denver hang around, and when they had a chance to put them away, I don't know what the fuck. That's like Travis was open. Like, I don't know
Wide
how
open.
I don't. it wasn't like Patty was under pressure, and it was just, you've literally done that 182,000 times with Travis. What the hell? So yeah, I got the win. Patty, everyone's good or whatever, but even he's got to clean some shit up, because I could have just been game right then and there. So with that being said, yeah, our tackles have been bad. I mean, it's been so bad that I've been seeing rumors about them just bringing Smith back off the streets.
Yeah, I saw that.
Um, and that's not good. I mean, we have Wanya Morris. I believe he was a 3rd-round pick, starting, and then we have, what was the other? Was it BYU? Is he 2nd-round pick?
Kingsley, yeah.
And he's looked bad. So we have a lot of draft capital that it's not looking too hot. I know they do pretty bad against speed rushers, and that's probably what the Denver edge rushers would fall under, as speed rushers. Chiefs tried to do what they could, and Patrick made adjustments when plays needed to be made as much as he could, but it's concerning for me. And I'm not trying to talk shit on Denver, but those aren't by any means like all-pro pass rushers that they were bringing against our tackles. Good quality players, like we mentioned before the year. We think Denver's players are better than people give them credit for, but at the end of these are still not like all-pro, going to break sack records people. And it's a huge concern, because when you get to the playoffs, a lot of teams you name do have elite edge rushers. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and now Preston Smith. Texans, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter. Like, we can go down the list of just these teams that do have all-pro pass rushers. It's concerning. The only thing I enjoy is we've committed to the run a little bit more, and I hope we commit a little bit more when we get Pacheco and Hunt back. They'll both stay a little more fresh, but you're not wrong. The line is concerning. Even our interior wasn't kind of handling their business against Denver. So I can say Chiefs played bad, but at the end of the day, like, Denver players just went out there and balled, and they came in to throw some haymakers, and they landed some. So it's always nice to walk away with a win, but I think it's weird after the game. I think Denver fans felt better about Denver than Chiefs did about the Chiefs. So
well, I think Denver fans were more worried about just sitting there just ripping on Alex Forsythe, which, I mean, he got pancaked, cool, but at the end of the day, you got to, it does suck, but I think when you look past that, I know it's hard. It's going to be hard. But you got to look past that.
Day, did you win or lose? That's what people see.
And I think, and Sean Payton said it best. I mean, he said that we outplayed them, but they're a champion. They have a heart of a champion. They know how to win games, and that they made one more play than we did, and that defines a champion. So I agree with Sean in the sense of, yes, we did outplay them. 2, they are a champion. They are going for a three-peat. They are looking to be the first team in history to three-peat. They don't give 2 fucks how they win the game. They shouldn't. They're still, again, they're a champion. Block, miss, do whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. At the end of the day, they won. They won. So now you, from my perspective as a Broncos fan, yes, now I have to look bigger picture, because one, season's not over. It's far from over. You still have 7 games left. As a Chiefs fan, you're like, well, what other ways can we possibly find to win? And they'll find out another, and we'll get into that here shortly. It's not like it gets easier for the Chiefs this week. Hey, you just got to go up to Buffalo. Their Super Bowl. So, that's always going to be tough. But I love what Sean said after. And I even mentioned to you after the game, I said, okay, now we're starting to see the core of the Broncos on the defense and on the offense. Now it's kind of the hardest part of this is learning how to win, learning how to finish the games. We saw that with KU for the longest time. And unfortunately this year with their football team, they're kind of back to where they were a few years ago when Lance first got to KU, of finishing the games. That's the toughest part. And then you're seeing it with KU also, is realizing it doesn't matter how talented the players you have. It's hard to sustain that. But we have the right coach for this. You're going to have tough losses. Even the Chiefs, back when Andy got here, they still had some, they were winning, but they still had to figure out, they had some dark days with Todd Haley and Romeo Crennel, right? But you're a real fan. You know about those days. So it's like, culture changes don't happen overnight. You're seeing it. We're still not at the Chiefs level. We're close. We're close. We can compete with them now. They're still the champions, though. And until someone takes that from them, you got to find a way to go in there and win.
Yeah, and one thing I don't want to be overlooked here, and I know you still took a loss, back-to-back losses, but I think it was huge on how the team responded after that ass beating by Baltimore.
Bashed.
Yeah, it's the last couple of years, that loss to Baltimore, that 70 burger they gave up to the Dolphins, and I think both times they actually responded really well. This year with the rookie quarterback, I think says a lot. That could have really spiraled a really bad second half from a rookie quarterback, but he went out and balled. I don't know if I'd even say that they're close to the locker room and culture that the Chiefs have, but you can tell that there's been progress made in Denver because they went from an ass beating 1 week to going toe to toe, literally outplaying so far the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to say that they're close, but there's progress in that locker room, in that foundation, in that core. Whether that takes another year or two to fully gel into something or not. Because let's be honest, I think Denver was projected 5 wins before the season. Their over-under was like 5.5.
Yep.
I know you and I both said that they had more talent than most people thought, so we thought more wins were on board. But I even think even sitting 500 after the last 2 weeks doing what they've done, I still think they're light years ahead of where they expected to be or where people expected them to be. I know moral victories count for literally nothing. And even no matter how the rest of this year plays out, I think Denver fans have every right to be excited for what the immediate future holds. And I don't know the last time Denver fans could even say that. I mean, since Peyton Manning, I don't know if Denver fans were ever like truly super excited about what the current season, the next year or two look like. So I think
because we were sitting 5-5 at this time last year too, but we had Russ, so it's like,
yeah, and we knew that was going to blow up at some time. Like him and Sean Payton we talk about how perfect of a marriage Patty and Andy are, the exact opposite of Russ and Sean. And it's
big shout out to Russ. Big shout out to Russ.
Yeah, they're both good at what they do, but like we said, college back chemistry matters, and like Sean and Russ, just those aren't things that go together. Russ is still a good quarterback. Sean's still a great coach, just not together. I think I've seen Sean have a little more fun this year with Bo Nix than I honestly remember him having for a long time.
He's smiling this year.
Yeah, when your head coach, who's an offensive guru the way that Sean is, when he starts smiling and laughing and having fun, that's actually when you go to the next level or two. You don't do that if you're stressed, worried, not knowing what the hell's going on. I think Sean has a lot of shit brewing in the next like 6 to 12 months for Denver. As a Chiefs fan, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not worried or I am worried, but it'll be kind of fun to have some competitiveness going on. So it's good for Denver. It's good for the AFC. I wish some of these AFC teams could go to the NFC for just playoff purposes. Obviously, we're not going to dig into the NFC too much, but AFC is a gauntlet, and I think Denver has shown that their hat may not be in the ring yet, but it's well on its way to landing in the ring. So hopefully we get a good like 6 to 8 year rivalry with Patty and Bo before they're both 40. But it's good times. I feel like you and I, Chiefs Broncos, we handled that game on Sunday pretty well. We had some good fun with some videos and shit we saw after the game, and no blood was drawn, no fists were thrown, nothing was broken. I don't know if all Chiefs Broncos fans can say the same thing, but I think we handled ourselves pretty well.
Yeah, so let's spend like 1 or 2 more minutes on the Broncos real quick before we spend the rest of the episode talking about the Chiefs and what they have coming up. So Denver has Atlanta this week. Then they go to Vegas. And then there's a little stretch here that could be super important. You have the Browns, the Colts, the Chargers, and the Bengals before wrapping up with the Chiefs to end the season. That is a little 4-game stretch right there. 4-game stretch. Outside of the Browns aren't really in playoff contention, but that's still an important game because it's at home. But then that Colts, Chargers, Bengals, I mean, that's 3 teams right there that, they're going to be fighting for playoff chance.
Colts won't.
We'll see. The jury's still out on the Colts. They're making the desperate move back to Anthony Richardson, so we'll see. You got to win those home games, though. So you have to beat the Raiders. There's no excuse. You're well ahead of the Raiders now. There's absolutely no excuse to lose to the Raiders. The Chargers is on the road. That's a division game. Typically play the Chargers well. They came to Denver and won. But then those last 2 games, hopefully the Bengals and Chiefs, hopefully we're still playing for something at Cincinnati and then at home. So what do you an outside thought here? You're a Chiefs fan. Obviously when we get here in like a minute, when we start talking about the Chiefs and they're already a lock in the playoffs, what are your thoughts on that little stretch right there for Denver with a rookie quarterback and somewhat of a young team?
Yeah, I think that last 2 games ending with Bengals and Chiefs is, I don't know who Sean Payton pissed off in the schedule making department, but damn, that's a brutal way to end.
You go Chiefs, you go Ravens, Chiefs this last 2 weeks, and then you get the Falcons, who are still okay, then the Raiders, but then they're like, oh hey, let's end your season with the Bengals and Chiefs.
Yeah, that's
we thought the Bengals were going to be way better than what they are.
Well, the Bengals are good. I don't think that's a good matchup for Denver, just because you're going to have to get in a track meet. You have to get in a track meet with them.
Yep.
As much as I hate the Bengals, and Jamar Chase just annoys me, them homies can ball on offense.
They can. They can. Joe Burrow's having a fantastic season.
I feel like if the Chiefs-Bengals played right now, the game would be a lot different than what it was to start the season. So I don't like that matchup, but even as a Chiefs fan, I think the rest of the matchups you've proven you're okay against Kansas City. That could also be a game, depending on how the season goes. The Broncos are playing against Chiefs backups. Sorry, just depending how the season goes. But the rest of those matchups, Falcons are easily beatable. That can be another slobber knocker of a game, like we just saw with Chiefs Broncos. We know how I feel about Anthony Richardson, so I don't even. I mean, they won't be in the playoff picture much longer. You're right. You have to beat the Raiders. I think that the swing game is going to be that Chargers game, honestly. I think the other ones you should absolutely not. I don't want to say you're going to be heavy favorites, but very winnable games outside of the Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs. Those 3 games, I think, are what's going to swing Denver one way or the other. With me thinking the Bengals are a sure lock for Denver, 50-50 on the Chiefs game. So I think that Chargers game is really what's going to determine Denver's playoff outlook. That's one where I feel probably for both of them, honestly. I don't know what the Chargers have remaining, but they're a wild card team because Chiefs are winning the division. But yeah, I think the rest of them winnable. Chargers game, that's going to flip the season. You're going to get your butts kicked by the Bengals. Maybe Surtain can slow down Chase. I don't know. That's a tough ask. But and then the Chiefs game. So honestly, 500-ish for the rest of the way out, which is kind of on par with what they've done up to this point. I don't know if a 9-8, 10-7 record. I think that gets you in the 7 spot. Depending on the Bengals, I feel like that's really your only competition for that 7 seed. I guess the Dolphins might catch fire now that they're for now healthy, but I guess the Chargers game, I know I said that was the biggest one, but if I think Bengals are your competition, that could really be the game for the 7 seed when you play the Bengals. It's got to be nice to play some meaningful football, though. I don't know how many
That's
people
all I care about.
Yeah, November into December. I don't know how many people were chalking up Denver to playing some meaningful football games. So it's going to be tough outside of the first few. I don't want to say cakewalk games. Having kind of the Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs towards the end of the schedule is really gonna. That's a tough outlook.
Yeah, so it'll be a week to week thing. I still have them as 8, 8, 9, 9, and 8. I need to see how it's a week by week thing, so that could change. But I feel better about the 8 and 9, 9 and 8 record, just based on what we do have in that back stretch. Because it's not that we're not as good as the Chargers. It's just they have a little bit more to work with as far as their quarterback, and I think their defense is just a smidge better than what we have, just because Harbaugh has them. Harbaugh did what basically Harbaugh does. He came in there and he flipped the script. So again, we'll talk about it week to week, but I'm still sitting here saying 8 and 9, 9 and 8 for them. So let's roll over to the Chiefs. Pull up their schedule real quick. Oh man. Oh shit. So Buffalo this week, obviously on the road.
Give us
Then
some
you have
Panthers, baby.
then you have the Panthers and Raiders, Chargers and Browns after that.
Let's go.
And then you kind of have the Texans at home, and then a huge Christmas Day showdown in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. I'm actually kind of excited for a Christmas game. That's actually, on paper, that should be kind of fun. Let's not look too far ahead real quick. So let's talk about this Bills game. It's a little different when you play the Bills in the regular season than when obviously in the postseason. They kind of, I don't know, they get up a little more for this game. It's like the same thing with the Ravens. Like they get up a little more for their regular season game than they do when it matters in the playoffs. Let's be honest and let's be real for a second. Are you at all concerned with Buffalo this weekend?
Yeah, always. I mean, in the regular season, I think you nailed it. They always get up a little bit more. Pair that with what I've been saying about the Chiefs this year, where they don't really seem like they're getting up for any game. I don't want to say I'm glad that players are hurt. I think it evens the score a little bit more, especially if Amari Cooper ends up being out. That our backup corners are going to have to guard backup receivers. That helps our corners out a little bit. Not an easy place to play. Josh Allen, he always gets up a little. You can go back and look at the losses that the Bills had against the Chiefs. It wasn't because of Josh. The dude has godly numbers against the Chiefs. I'd be stupid to say if I wasn't concerned, especially when we're coming off a week where everyone knows it and saw it, that Chiefs were outplayed by Denver, and we found a way to win. I don't know if we get outplayed like that against Josh Allen and the Bills that we're even in a position to find a way to win at the end. Yeah, I don't know. I hope it's a good game. Not the end of the world if we lose. It would be cool to go undefeated, but I've always been a believer is like you need to get your loss out of the way somewhere. Like rather it be the Bills and the Panthers. All right, let's do this. Should be a good game. I think just being in Buffalo, tough place to play. Bills are gonna be lit up for it. I don't know. It's hard to say that I don't think the Chiefs will win, just because like at what point do you just stop saying the Chiefs aren't gonna win? At this point, but premier matchup. I mean, who knows? Both teams kind of beat up at some key positions. I saw Kincaid might not play, which it really doesn't matter who your tight end is going to beast us. So Dawson Knox, whoever the third string, fourth string is, like they're going to dominate either way. But hopefully it's another defensive battle. Hopefully we don't let Josh run all over us. I don't know. That's in my heart. I want to say I'm a little worried, but at what point do I just have to say, like, at some point we are going to lose? I think we can count on one hand the amount of teams that have made it to the postseason undefeated. So I don't know. It's going to be a good game, I hope, but it wouldn't surprise me if we do also come out and just get slapped. Bills have had our number in the regular season, so it's going to be like a 17-21 type of game. I don't think any offense is going to get out of control. I know Josh Allen started the season not having a lot of turnovers. He's kind of been a little turnover friendly at the last couple of weeks, so we'll see if that continues. Hope it continues, but I think you're just going to see a lot of running the football and punting. Truth be told, I think both teams trust their defense to where they're like, we don't want our offense to lose the game for us by doing something stupid. You get towards the end of the game, you'll start seeing things open up a little bit, but like right now, if I was putting money down, I'd put it on the Bills. That's just where I'm at. I'd probably lose money because you don't bet against the Chiefs at this point, but I guess as an outsider, I know you're a Broncos fan, so it might be a little hard to see the Chiefs through like non-hatred eyes, but just like as an outsider, like don't you think right now, just on paper, you just feel like the Bills are going to win?
I do, and it's not because of me being a Broncos fan per se, but I think the Broncos showed quite a bit last week and what they were able to get on film. Now, but Buffalo's not built defensively the same. I think they have more power rushers than what Denver has, but those are really good power rushers. Part of me wants to say the Bills would be the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC, but I'm still leaning towards Baltimore still being that, because I still think Derrick Henry could be, if used correctly against the Chiefs, the X factor. But I think the Bills have a good case when healthy, fully healthy. But even with the Chiefs, if the Chiefs are fully healthy, right? So, I mean, now you're playing that if the Chiefs are healthy with Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, with, their corners, then the Chiefs are way above what Buffalo is. But I do think Buffalo does win this weekend. And it's not a shot at Kansas City or what everything, but I think you've played with fire enough the last couple of weeks. And that's not a bad thing. You're 10 weeks in, or this is your 10th game, right? So if I had to pick one of your remaining games, this would be the one. I'm not quite ready to say the Steelers game on Christmas would be a loss just because that's so far away. You don't know what happens. And Chiefs are already designating people to come back. They just won't play this week. So, yeah, give me the Bills. And 21-17, which you said, I think it is somewhere in that. 28-24 also. Some, nothing too wild or crazy. But I will tell you this. Josh Allen can't turn the ball over like he has been. He had been doing so well taking care of the football. You can't help a defense or a team like the Chiefs by making stupid turnovers. So I think that's going to be the difference, is if Josh can take care of the football, run instead of trying to force the football, then I think they're going to be fine. But if he starts trying to get too cute and trying to squeeze things in, I think that's going to be kind of not really a key to the game, but I think that could make a difference. So as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, I like the Bills in this one.
Well, and not to sound like I'm cocky or up on my high horse or anything, but just even noticing some of these games against teams that that you think you have a high shot of playing in, divisional round or championship round. Chiefs don't show their hand too much. I don't want to say they kind of coast through the game. Like, they still try to win. There's not a game where the Chiefs are sitting back like, I don't give a shit if we win. They want to win, but they don't show their hand on a whole lot. You don't want. We'll just use Spags and his schemes. We don't want to use any crazy stuff right now. That way, when Josh sees it in January, it's not something he's seen before. So it's also one of those. I don't watch the Bills enough to know to comment if they do the same or not. I just know I watch every Chiefs game. and can obviously tell the difference. And I know in years past, like, I'm not saying Spags won't blitz and he won't use
Oh God,
anything.
yeah, no, absolutely not.
But at the same time, he doesn't put everything on film that could be seen again. And I think that's a huge part on why they've had some regular season success against us. Like, yeah, we obviously still try to win those games, but we don't show all of our cards when it comes to the regular season game. Against same thing against the Bengals, the Ravens. I think we'll do the same thing with the Steelers and Texans. But at the end of the year, if we're sitting with 3 losses and it was to the Bills, the Steelers, and Texans, who cares?
So give me your biggest threat in the AFC to the Chiefs then. Like, if there was one team that you played in the AFC Championship game that you may actually be somewhat worried about, who would that team be?
It'd be the Bengals.
Yeah,
And it will always be the Bengals. I know what you said about Lamar and the Ravens. I'm not trying to sound like a dick, but Ravens and Lamar, they just don't scare me. I know that the week 1 matchup came down to a toe. But again, game 1 of the year, I still don't think we were showing all of our cards. And in true fashion, Lamar just didn't make plays that were there. I'm not saying I would be super just like, oh, we're playing the Ravens, easy dub. I'm not as worried about Lamar and the Ravens as I am Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I don't even know if the Bengals end up being there, which would be awesome if they don't. But if I have to pick one team that I don't want to see, it's the Bengals. Now, it's sweeter when we beat them, but that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, even when that connection's only like 50% to where it could be, it's still lethal. Yeah, that's my one team. None of the other teams really, I don't even want to say the Bengals put fear in me, but I have a little more doubt with the Bengals than I would any of the other top tier teams.
Yeah, so let's flip it over to the NFC real quick, just a couple minutes, to the Lions, who are the NFC version of the Chiefs right now.
How do you throw
I
5
went to
picks
bed
and win?
Yeah, man, I went to bed the other night thinking that it was done, and I woke up, saw Jared Goff still threw 5 interceptions, but they still won. Like, Dan Campbell is a fucking G. He truly is. Like, those guys, what he's able to do with those guys, because I mean, they don't have like the huge big name dudes, right? They just find the gritty guys that are going to go out and hit you. Brian Branch is absolutely fucking fun to watch. I love
Best
watching
safety in
that dude.
football. Best safety in
Yeah,
football.
man. So let's kind of the same question here, because obviously right now, as of now, right, you would agree that it's a Lions Chiefs are on ahead, like they're well on their way of being the Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of times you don't get that matchup that's expected, but you'd be silly to think that right now it's not going to be Chiefs Lions. So yeah, we'll get, just for conversation purposes, Chiefs Lions head on head collision coming up.
Yeah, so then tell me, same question with the Lions, is who in the NFC could possibly take them down?
My
I
gut
think this
always,
I think this question is a little tougher for the Lions in the NFC than it is for the AFC,
yeah,
because the NFC is not.
you'd like to think just by what the names you hear and like what they've done before, but like the Eagles, at some point they're going to look normal and play how they should, right? I don't know.
We'll see tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I still don't think the Commanders are quite there. Good start for them on their rebuild and their future. I don't think they're quite there. Niners, I think they're just, something's off with them. I don't know. I don't know what it is. You start seeing Debo shoving people on the sideline and stuff too, and I know they squashed it, but that's still shit you don't usually see on that team. So something's off with them. Shanahan, Purdy, McCaffrey, like in that defense, they always have a shot. Truly, I don't think anyone in the NFC has a legitimate shot at beating the Lions outside of like the Packers. Jordan Love seems to have some magic going on at times. But honestly, I'm gonna have to pick the Eagles. I think once playoffs roll around, they'll ride Saquon a little bit more. they'll let it fly a little bit more into the weapons they have. They seem off a little weird in the regular season, but they find ways to win. But I think you bring a dude like Barkley in for a game like that, ride him till the end, and yeah, I think Eagles and Lions. That's really the NFC teams that you'd really think it'll come down to. Vikings had Darnold, cool run and everything. You're not there. Sorry. I like the Cardinals and what they have. I think they still just lack enough true top tier talent to make a true legitimate deep run. Rams are kind of figuring it out. I guess you can never truly write off Matt Stafford. That dude was kind of Patty before Patty, where no matter what happens, they're always kind of in games. And if his receivers are healthy, they're never out of any game. So I think there's some true legitimate wild cards that could pop up and make some noise, but Saquon and the Eagles, I think, pose the biggest threat to the Lions.
I am curious about the Cardinals, and I'd love to see how the Cardinals kind of finish out the season, just because I think they're starting to get it figured out culture-wise. Their defense is really fun to watch. I don't know if their offense is enough to get by Detroit's defense, but I think their defense, defensively they can match up well with the Lions. But again, that just shows that these next few weeks are going to be really, really, really fun. So tune in, right? So let's kind of see how it goes. Well, with us thinking we were going to have a guest night, I didn't get my fantasy sleeper bus kind of figured out. I know you went 2-0 last week. Did you have yours ready for this week?
I do.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take a back seat to this week, and then I'll kind of hand it over to you. So you went 2-0 last week. Austin Eckler was your sleeper, and then Jaden Daniels was your bust. I think you did go 2-0, right? If I can remember correctly. So Yep. Congratulations to you. Give us your week 11 picks.
All right. So my sleeper, it's gonna be Drake May. I like that guy. The dude throws a pretty ball. That offense kind of seems to be coming like an offense the last few weeks. He was my guy before the season started. He was kind of the quarterback I was most excited about in the draft class. So why not ride him 1 week as a sleeper? My bust, it could just be being a little salty, seeing how well he played this last week against Chiefs. I guess not salty, but just maybe overhyping him. But I think Drake London's going to bust because Surtain's going to be on him. I don't know. Surtain just, I don't know. If he follows London ain't going to do shit. He did pretty well on D-Hop's a different animal than London at this point in his career, but I just think it's a tough matchup. I think there's some other matchups to exploit that Falcons could potentially have, and then honestly, they just run the ball. So, like volume and opportunity added with being guarded by Surtain, I think it's going to be a bust of a week for London.
All right, so sleeper of Drake May, bust of Drake London. Go Broncos this weekend.
It was my Drake week, apparently. I didn't even realize that until now.
Yeah, little Drake fan. Kendrick Lamar likes you. Just kidding. All right, so I know we were going to have a special guest tonight. We'll get in touch with him and we'll try to reschedule it. So again, find us on Apple, Spotify, iHeart. Come find us on Instagram at Shovick Sports. We will continue to interact with everybody. Looking at possibly getting a couple of fantasy guys on here to talk fantasy football. Just got to work out some logistics with them because we're starting to get into the time of year where the holidays are coming up. So we'll record next week, but the following week we won't due to Thanksgiving, obviously. So try to plan something out because there's that little stretch in there. So hopefully we get some guys on here to talk some fantasy sports. I know that'd be super exciting for us knowing that we love fantasy football. So again, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week.